answer our questions on defence sector, S. Samuel Rajiv, Research Fellow at the Manohar Parrikar Institute for Defence Studies and Analyses, joins us. Welcome to Forbes India, Mr. Rajiv. Thank you so much for joining us today. In FY26, defence spending hovered just under 1.9% of GDP. Now, that marked a multi-year low in relative terms. But, following the Defence Ministry's formal request for a 20% hike, do you expect the 2026-27 budget to reverse this trend and push the allocation back upwards, perhaps towards the 2.5% mark?
Yes, thank you for having me. I think, as you're aware and as you have highlighted the fact that the Ministry of Defense wanted a 20% increase from the previous year's defense allocations, we can expect the budget estimates to reflect those requests. As you have pointed out, it's less than 2% of the GDP previous years. But if you look at it in the overall decadal perspective, it's about, for instance, if you look at it in 2014 to 2024, the defense budget was about 2.2, 2.3% of the GDP. So this year's budget estimates should sort of bring that back up towards that, percentages.
And what is the capital outlay likely to look like? And what does that signal in terms of our modernization priorities?
Yes, as you're aware, one of the main goals of the government has been to fast track the modernization of the Indian Armed Forces, essentially legacy-based equipment and acquire more niche equipment. In the previous year's budget estimates, 25-26, the modernization of the capital outlay was about 180,000 crores, which is about 5% more which was about 5% more than the previous years. This year, we can expect a significant jump, and we are hoping for a significant jump, and we should expect that also. Essentially, because the government wants to fast track certain niche capabilities, a domestic procurement, and continue with the integrated financial planning that it has done for the past few years. If you look at the budget documents, the budget heads on the capital acquisition, capital outlay and defense services were earlier divided between the Army, Navy, and the Air Force, but now it's in the integrated document, essentially to aid overall financial planning. For instance, if the Army to make it platform agnostic, essentially in the niche capability areas. For instance, all the services would require UAVs. So, and instead of dividing it between the Army and the Navy and the Air Force, and to aid integrated financial planning, now we have a single budget head. So these kinds of procedural as well as significant changes are expected to continue in this budget also. Essentially, given the massive requirements of security that we have, the massive modernization needs that we have, the massive need to integrate high-end equipment by domestic manufacturers, because we have reduced the foreign capital procurement. It was about more than 30% or 35% actually in 2014, 2015. It has come down to about 26, 27% now. And hopefully going forward, this number will reduce further as the MOD continues to ramp up the procurement from the domestic industry. And the domestic industry, as we're well aware, has stepped up to the challenge and has amply proved during Operation Sindoor and subsequently. So there is an ample scope for the domestic industry to continue to contribute to the MOD's requirements.
Right. Speaking of the domestic industry, Mr. Rajiv, are there some specific incentives or policy measures which we could see introduced in this budget which could boost the private sector participation in defense production?
Yes, I think we were aware that the government has made a conscious effort to, in fact, aid the involvement of the domestic industry and enhance domestic procurement and aid the involvement of the private sector specifically. You're aware that in the past, since the 4 or 5 years, there is the capital procurement budget has been bifurcated into domestic and foreign procurement. It was mandated that at least more than 54% of the capital outlay will be spent on domestic procurement. I mean, 21, 22, if I'm not mistaken. Since then, this percentage is consistently increased. It's now more than 75%. The MOD has in fact procured more from the domestic industry than has been mandated in the budget also, which is a very positive development. The significant steps the government has taken to aid the private sector participation, including reforms to the procurement procedures, allocating certain percentage of tenders to only the MSMEs in the private sector. So all of this the government has taken. We can expect. I mean, obviously, we're not sure what else the government will take in this budget, but this positive trend will continue. The other steps that the government has taken, like the positive indigenization lists and among others, which big incentive for the domestic industry to make those items domestically because we're not importing them anymore. So all of these steps cumulatively will definitely aid the role of the private sector, especially in niche areas. And we can expect the private sector to not only cater to the requirements of the Indian Armed Forces, but also increasingly help in the growth of the defense exports. As it is, the private sector plays a significant role in the defense export. We can expect their role to continue and grow forward also.
On that note, Mr. Rajiv, thank you so much for your time.